Hello everyone and welcome to my presentation on gamification. Today we'll talk about a few things. We'll talk about some general aspects, the past, the present, and future. When we look at the general aspects, we ask ourselves the question why. We look at the need and research. The specific need of gamification is that student motivation is low, their engagement is low, and they're starting to lose interest in traditional learning styles. So it asks the question, is there an alternative for a healthy balance? Let's look at some research. CAP in 2012 says that gamification involves using game-based mechanics, aesthetics, and game thinking to engage people, motivate action, promote learning, and solve problems. Lee and Hammer in 2011 say gamified learning interventions seek to maintain a positive relationship with failure by creating rapid feedback cycles and keeping the stakes for individual learning episodes low. Lastly, Ruzick and Dumanick in 2015 say that through rewards such as badges, medals, and leaderboards, gamification has been commercialized. It's changed the way that students see learning. It's proactive, dynamic, and fun, not just obligatory and dull. The next we need to talk about is past. The past in gamification, we'll look at what does it mean to be gamified then, what are the development goals, and how it relates to education in the past. Looking at just what it means to be gamified in the past, its main goal was to rise the engagement of users by using game-like techniques such as scoreboards and personalized fast feedback. The development goals of gamification in the past, their main goal was entertainment. They weren't just used for educational purposes, but you began to see them among other industries such as scientific exploration, healthcare, emergency management, city planning, engineering, religion, and politics. When we think about education and how it relates to gamification, little research was done on the usefulness of gamification in education. They used gamification to identify desired and undesirable behaviors. They also used it to see for accuracy and point systems on the desired goals. Let's look at the present of gamification. We'll look at the change of purpose, the development goals, and gamification in education. Looking specifically at the present development of gamification, we see more virtual reality and virtual badges. It relies on badges, points, medals, and letterboards in order to continue motivating the kids and other participants in gamification. Let's look at gamification now. Burke in 2016 has changed the definition of gamification, not in the way of what it's producing or its goals, but it also gives a different meaning. It says it can also be used to develop skills and change behaviors. It improves lives. So as we look at it across different industries, it looks different, but the hope is that it develops skills and changes behaviors, whether desirable or undesirable, while it improves their life. Lastly, presently in education, gamification techniques help stimulate the motivation and engagement of kids. The teacher participation is the most important part here to be a motivator. It can't just be a time filler for when they need something to just put in there to aid or assist in their learning. Gamification has to be motivated by the teacher. Lastly, the objectives are what define what you want for gamification. It shouldn't be an aspect of gamification and its objectives that will align to your content. The content, the objectives has to be chosen first, and then you find something relevant in the field of education. Gamification is about motivating people to reach their own goals. That was according to Burke in 2016. Taking that mind shift and that mind frame, we look at individualized gamification. It's a way to differentiate instructions for the needs of the individual, as well as use it as a motivational tool. Lastly, let's look at the future. I will be honest, as you look at the research for the future of gamification, it is slim to none. We look at when gamification started in 2010 when the name was adopted. We look at what it's happening now in the realm of 2015, 2016, 2017. And when we look at 2020 and beyond, I have some questions that I've come up with. And as I looked to research, it was hard to find some answers to the questions. Will students' social skills decline? Will they rely on an interactive e-learning or an interactive web tool in order to learn, therefore not allowing them to develop social skills they need to interact with others? The second one, will students rely on reward, badge, medal to complete a task? Will their whole reason for doing some kind of task be that they want some kind of reward? And if so, what does that look like? Is it positive? Is it negative? Are there going to be positive benefits that weigh out the negative, or will the negative outweigh the positive? With it being in the future, it's hard to tell the answer to the question. But the three things that I really found and what it really shows is that gamification will continue to spread over other industries. Other industries will begin to use it, continue to use it, and they will see an incline of gamification as it becomes more relevant. The second is that this idea of virtual reality is going to increase the gamification use. Virtual reality is newer in that people are starting to catch on. It's becoming easily accessible, and they will begin to connect that with gamification to teach specific skills. And lastly, there will always be an uncertainty of what will happen. We do not know what would happen tomorrow. We do not know what will happen a year from now. We can only project based on what it has looked like in the past and what we think it's going to be in the future. Here are my references. I have the past, the present, and the future references. And here are just some general references from where I had given some quotes for some research that I had found in a general way. I hope you've learned something about gamification today and how it relates specifically to my workplace.